Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We have a lot of news to go over. Tesla specific news, Trump news, what's going on out there in markets, a ton to get to. So I'm not going to waste any time. I will say Tesla stock at the time of recording this video is down almost 1%, and I am surprised considering just this one piece of news here. Tesla has announced that effective February 1st, all models in Canada will get huge price increases. The Model 3 has a $4,000 to $9,000 price increase depending on the trim. The Model Y is getting a $4,000 increase on all trims, and the Model S and the Model X is also getting a $4,000 increase on all trims. This is directly margin accretive. Now, it could be due to some expected tariffs on Canada at some point. I'm not exactly sure how Tesla would be affected by that. In theory, they shouldn't be because Teslas are not being built in Canada, but this is good news no matter which way you want to put it. A price increase, especially this large, that's positive. Now, I still do think there is those TikTok rumors out there that continue to be a dark cloud over Tesla stock. Eventually, that will alleviate a bit, and we won't even remember this. But for now, it is a drag on Tesla. At least it looks like it. And it is being reported that Tesla FSD v13.2.5 has started rolling out to owners with Hardware 4. Hardware 3 owners are now getting v12.6.2. Tesla is named as one of the world's safest car brands according to a UK study. All of Tesla's vehicles that have been tested, which number 45 cars, as per Confused.com's study, received no lower than 5-star safety ratings. Now, this could actually be the biggest news of the day today, and this is the real reason why I'm shocked Tesla stock is not higher. Check this news out. Tesla China announces a 30-day free enhanced autopilot plus ASS trial. This is one baby step away at this point to launching FSD in China. FSD is currently not available in China. I think a lot of people have also forgotten this, that Tesla's roadmap is for Europe and China to get FSD in the first half of 2025. That is Tesla's goal. And it looks like that's coming true. Now, FSD tends to be, at least from, our estimates, 80+% bottom line net profits. So let's say you have we'll keep this math as simple as possible. Okay, let's say you got 2 million Teslas out on the road in China. Obviously, rough numbers here, and I'm not 100% validating this. But let's say you charge, or let's say a better way to do this is let's say 20% of those drivers get FSD once it's available in China. That is 400,000 vehicles overnight, potentially, that could get FSD. Let's say it's $5,000 US for FSD. That is $2 billion of bottom line profitability, basically overnight. If 20% of all Teslas in China get FSD at $5,000 for the purchase price, which, honestly, the take rate could be higher than 20%. The price could be lower. That's a fair argument, but the take rate could be higher. So all else equal, $2 billion, divide this by 3.3 billion shares outstanding, and that actually adds 60 cents to Tesla's EPS, basically overnight. That's a big deal. A lot of Wall Street has forgot that that's coming. Now, if you give this a 100 or 120 times multiple, as a lot of folks on Wall Street are assigning to Tesla right now, that actually adds almost $73 of value to Tesla stock, just with FSD in China. I would say That's a big deal. And it does look like the new Model Ys are being delivered to customers over in China. At least this is a new Model Y that's being delivered to a store in China. So it does look like deliveries have started. Now, before we get into your option activity, short positioning today in Tesla, sentiment, and other news, I do want to share some of the headlines from Donald Trump today. He spoke at Davos, and there was quite a few headlines that came out, some of which I do believe are very positive for Tesla as well, especially what Trump had to say about China. Now, keep in mind, there is going to be a announcement, a call made with the El Salvador president, and a lot of people expect that's going to be in regards to crypto. So be on the lookout for any crypto headlines. Nonetheless, Trump says that China's president called him. Trump sees a relationship between the US and China as very good, and hopefully China can help the US stop the war in Ukraine. Trump at Davos said the US will demand respect from other nations, including Canada, suggests that Canada could become a US state. But really some of the big news, the big statement from Davos, Trump says he will demand that interest rates drop immediately. So could be putting some real pressure on the Fed soon. And let's just be honest, the Fed's the reason why we have inflation, the government as well. But at this point, shelter inflation is remaining high because of interest rates being high. It's so intuitive from what we would expect because of prior periods in history. Normally, you raise rates, housing inflation doesn't go up, comes down. These days, housing inflation goes up as the Fed raises rates. You may need more rate cuts to get inflation to come down. And Trump at the helm of that, put some pressure on Powell, could be a positive thing for interest rates and for inflation. Trump says the US will be the capital, the world capital, of AI and crypto. And Trump really sent this one home at Davos today. He says we need to double the energy we have in the US for AI to be as big as we want it. So really suggesting that AI is going to be massive in this country, which I would also say is a positive for a lot of your AI stocks. Trump says that he will bring down the corporate tax rate to 15% if the product is made in the US. And that does sound good for corporate profitability. Trump criticizes EU tariffs at Davos, claims unfair treatment of US products. Trump says that he would agree to guarantee security of supplies from the US to Europe. This is energy. So he was basically asked, if they're sending too much energy to Europe, could that cause prices for energy in the US to go higher? And then would Trump backtrack on his agreements to Europe and to supply their energy? Basically saying, hey, if we're Germany and we get basically all of our energy from Russia, if we start buying it from America and your guys' prices go up, are you going to stop supplying us so then we have to go back to Russia to get the energy? And Trump said, no, we will basically produce enough for all of us. Trump at Davos urges businesses to manufacture in America, warning of tariffs for non-compliance, and promises U.S. as best destination for job creation and factory development. Now, this did hit the markets a bit. Anytime he speaks about tariffs, it does tend to spread a little bit of fear in the markets. And this was also big news as well. Trump at Davos urges Saudi Arabia and OPEC to lower oil prices, claiming it would immediately end the war in Ukraine. Plans to ask them to invest $1 trillion versus the $600 billion. And again, Trump says that Congress will pass the largest tax cut in American history. Now, what's interesting about today is 10-year Treasury yields are actually going up 5 basis points from 4.60% yesterday to 4.65% today. So bond yields are moving higher. They did fall a bit after Trump, made the announcement that interest rates are going to be cut soon. That did have a reaction, but it did revert back to what it was kind of doing before that speech. Oil markets, though, completely flipped. Oil today is down about 1% following Trump's comments, and that is good for inflation. Now, CNN's Fear and Greed Index today is at 46, so you're back in neutral after being in fear and momentarily in extreme fear for over a month now. Market momentum is neutral. Stock price strength is extreme fear. Stock price breadth, extreme fear. Put and call options neutral. Market volatility is neutral. Safe haven demand is greed. And junk bond demand is greed. The percent of stocks trading above their 50-day moving average at 46.66%, meaning you still have almost 54% of stocks of our market in a decline. They're still not above their 50-day moving average. So there's a lot of room for improvement here. But look at that wild flip-flop of sentiment on the AI Investor Sentiment Survey. Last week, we had a one-year low for bullish sentiment, a multi-year low for bullish sentiment at only 25.4%. We had a one-year high for bearish sentiment, meaning only about 25% of stock market investors actually expected markets to be higher in the next 6 months. Today, the new number we're getting is 43.4% of investors are bullish, 27.1% are neutral. That is down from 34% last week. And bearish investors at 29.4% versus 40.6% last week. All of a sudden, Wall Street, or this is more retail investors, but they're not as bearish as they were before. And usually that's a good thing. Now, today in after hours, we will get earnings from Texas Instruments, Intuitive Surgical, CSX, and a couple other names. And then tomorrow morning, we will get Verizon, American Express, and Next Era Energy. We are also expecting about a 98% chance that the Japanese central bank is going to raise rates 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. So Japan raising rates, well, that's what caused the August 5th flash crash in markets. Could this create some volatility again? It's possible, but it's not a surprise rate hike like it was last time. Now the markets are expecting this. So although it can create some volatility, it would be a lot less, or it's at least a lot less likely that it would be another flash crash scenario. Now, tomorrow morning, we are going to get some data coming out with S&P Global Composite PMIs, S&P Global Manufacturing PMIs, and S&P Global Services PMIs. That data will come out at 9:45 in the morning tomorrow. 10 o'clock in the morning, existing home sales for December and existing home sales month over month for December will be coming out, expecting a slight gain on a month-over-month basis. Final numbers for Michigan consumer sentiment, including 5-year inflation expectations, 1-year inflation expectations, consumer expectations, current conditions, and some other smaller data points. So we actually do have a little bit of economic data tomorrow morning that could move our markets. But we do have some good news today. New tenant rents, a leading indicator for shelter inflation, declined on a year-over-year basis for the first time since Q2 2010. Okay, and this thing kind of just plummeted. Okay, so if you're thinking about inflation and the direction we're going in, this is really good news. Now, also in the news recently, Elon Musk has been called a Nazi, and Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's president, came out publicly on X to support him. He says Elon is being falsely smeared. Elon is a great friend of Israel. He visited Israel after the October 7th massacre, in which Hamas terrorists committed the worst atrocity against the Jewish people since the Holocaust. He has since repeatedly and forcefully supported Israel's right to defend itself against genocidal terrorists and regimes who seek to annihilate the one and only Jewish state. I thank him for this. So, he's not a Nazi, if you didn't know that already. Now, in the options market for Tesla stock today, it's very positive. You have an 84% positive order value. That's really, really good, especially on a day, again, where Tesla is in the red. You have seen 75 different trades totaling $58.3 million. It's definitely a lower dollar amount, but more bullish than typical, considering yesterday even you were 52% positive order value, and over the past week you've been at 59% positive order value. So 84% really stands out compared to those numbers. Now, for options expiring tomorrow, you have volume of 56.85% calls today, 43.15% put. So people are still favoring the calls. But look at next week, guys. The volume today for next Friday's expiration is 71% calls versus 29% puts today. Tesla reports earnings next week. Seems like basically everyone is positioning for Tesla stock to move higher next week, not lower. And we will take a look at the positioning a little bit more in depth in the next video. Also consider sentiment today for Tesla over on Stocktwits is bearish at 27. That is really low. That is almost extremely bearish. Sentiment yesterday was bearish at 43, so it's gotten even worse from yesterday. Message volume today is high at 58. 1 day ago, it was high at 59. Participation ratio is normal at 54. So considering people are so negative on Tesla, that could be your opportunity to take a position in Tesla. Obviously, I'm not a financial advisor, not a financial planner. Do not just blindly listen to anything anyone says, but I might put a trade on for Tesla, at least earnings next week. Because people are this negative and you've fallen heading into earnings, the odds of a rally after earnings look a little bit more likely now than they were before. Tesla is currently running about 4,000 different ads with Google, and if you take a look at Tesla's global inventory numbers, Model Y is coming in at a little over 11,000, the Model 3 at about 6,200, the Model X at 2,100, the Model S at 1,000, as well as the Cybertruck at about 1,100. And if you are really concerned about inflation and tariffs, think again. Shein's executive says tariffs shouldn't impact its cheap clothes, as long as they're applied equally. Well, there you have it. $2 shirts may still be $2 shirts after all. Maybe prices are not going to go up because of tariffs. With that said, Tesla stock is below its 20-day moving average, so that's not ideal. Although you're barely below that right now, I wouldn't freak out too much. You're about $4 lower than that. The 20-day moving average is at $415 per share. You're currently at $411 per share. But if we do get more weakness, then your next stop is that 50-day moving average, around $389, call it $390 per share, while also $400 per share could serve as a nice round support level if demand starts to come in around 400. Sometimes round numbers, just for whatever reason or another, they serve as support or they can serve as resistance. Okay, just like if we were rallying, $500 might be a little bit of resistance. Well, same is true to the downside. $400 per share could be a little bit of support, although it's not a super definitive support level, if that makes sense. So besides that, the RSI is at 51, almost exactly neutral. MACD line at 6.5, signal line at 8.5, so still looking negative on the MACD. You really want this yellow line to get above the blue line. That tends to indicate you're either in a rally or a rally is coming pretty soon. We almost went positive with this bounce that we've seen over the past couple of weeks now, but that did not officially happen. So overall, pretty exciting day today. Let me know what you guys think about all of this information down below in the comment section. What are your thoughts about Trump saying interest rates need to be lowered immediately? Do you think that's positive? Do you think that's negative? And ultimately, what do you think is negatively affecting Tesla stock right now? Again, I think it's some of the TikTok rumors that are still just lingering out there that have not been talked about at all by Elon Musk. I think the longer that goes on, as I said previously, the more uneasy Tesla investors may get, because Elon even if he had partners, would have to sell billions and billions and billions of dollars of Tesla stock. And we got little bit of PTSD, I'm not going to lie, from the last time Elon had to sell a lot of shares. But again, there was other things going on at the time. Auto gross margins were collapsing. Tesla was cutting prices. It looked like the economy was going into a recession. It was exactly the worst case scenario for any automaker. And you had Elon selling a bunch of Tesla stock to buy Twitter. So, it's not a certainty that would even happen again. But hey, we'll see. And for now, it continues to be a negative drag on Tesla stock. I am surprised, though, that we're not in the green today, considering the good news that was shared here in this video. So nonetheless, guys, enjoy the rest of your day. Let me know your thoughts on this down below in the comment section, and I will see you in the next one.